Stop the insanity. Get focused on what really matters in life. Your faith, your family, your finances, and your future. Now sit back and change the trajectory of your life. This is Money for Life, brought to you by the 100-Year Savings Solution. Are you concerned about the markets? Stop taking unnecessary risks with your money while also getting great benefits. Visit us at 100yearsavings.com. Now, let's welcome your Money for Life hosts, Teresa Kuhn and Rick Sapio.
Hello, everybody. This is Teresa Kuhn and my partner, Rick Sapio, and Money for Life. And today we're going to touch on one of Rick's favorite topics by one of his mentors, Warren Buffett. And the topic is mastering life priorities. And Rick, I'm going to have you talk about the story with Warren Buffett and how he taught the people around him to prioritize things in life. But Steve Jobs had a beautiful quote, and I'm going to share that. Steve Jobs said that here at Apple, we are more proud of the 1,000 of things that we've said no to than we are of the handful of things that we've said yes to, which probably is very shocking to people because Steve Jobs, oh my goodness, Apple has been one of the most successful companies in the history of business, right? When you think about it, Steve Jobs had to say no to a lot of things. He wanted to be amazingly great and awesome at just a couple things. And they figured that out.
Yeah, it goes against human nature. We are addicted to saying yes as a culture, as a society. We don't mind when thousands of things are infiltrating our time and our space. And I talk about all the time that the average parent has a one-on-one conversation with their average child in America for less than 1 minute a day with no electronics. It's just sick and sad and all of those things because we've let everything infiltrate. It's like water. If you dump water on the floor, it's going to go all over. It's going to find easy places to go. And that's what we do with media and games and sports and pop culture and crap and habits and all of that. And so for the people that know the secret to mastery in life and being really good at a handful of things, they've learned that you can only do one or two things. And so what Warren Buffett teaches the people around him, and by the way, he never taught this to me. I only knew Warren Buffett for a short period of time, for about 4 years in the late 80s and early 90s, before he became super famous. And he's always teaching. And since my dad died, I always look up to people that could teach me something. And I've had many, many mentors, and I encourage anybody listening to do that. But he would say, write down 25 things that you want to accomplish in your life, or 25 things you want to accomplish this year, or 25 things that your company needs to accomplish this year, whatever the list is. And then he would say, okay, what are the 5 most important things on that list? The 5 most important things that you have to get done in this time period, whether it's a year or a lifetime. Come up with a plan to achieve those 5 things and just write out the steps. And then most people say, well, I've got my 5, now I've got my other 20. And so Warren would say, what are you going to do with the other 20 things that you have to get done? And most people say, well, I'm going to try to fit it in. And his response to them is, you can't do more than 5 things. There's only 5 things, and you need to avoid at all costs, like your life depends on it. Avoid at all costs those other 20. Don't do them. Because if you could get those 5 things done, you will achieve what most people can't achieve, which is putting something on their list and working it down and getting it done and checking it off. And if anybody listening to this in the next 12 months could accomplish 5 meaningful life goals, that's a home run. And we all know the quote from Bill Gates, who said, we always overestimate what we can do in a year, and we underestimate what we can do in 10 years. And the reason is we just try to do too many things. And 10 years goes by and you checked a lot of boxes, but in 10 years, imagine if you did 5 massive things every year. So Teresa, why do you think that human beings have FOMO, fear of missing out, which encourages them to fill every space in their life with something nonsensical, irrelevant, unimportant, and in many cases damaging.
That's a great question. I wonder if 100 years ago people had FOMO. I wonder if 100 years ago people were wired to get too many things done. I think we lived simpler lives. I think with electronics and the age of electricity, where people were able to um, go to sleep when they wanted and wake up when they wanted without light being an issue. Maybe people, today just are trained to, or have been wired to think that they can accomplish so much when really in reality they're accomplishing so little that's really meaningful. Now, you've been teaching management by objectives, or a form of management by objectives, for a very, very long time. You've built some massive organizations with teams, and everyone in your team has a role. And every quarter, every person on that team has to accomplish, 5 important things that they've got to accomplish every quarter. Now, I want to dovetail to that person at work that's got to accomplish 5 things. What about their personal life? What about their family life? Do you recommend people do the same thing when they talk, when they're talking about the different areas of their life, health and parenting and their partner relationship and their work and their career? Is it 5 things for each, or is it the most important thing? I mean, when you think about it that way, it becomes a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah, I would say that, first of all, to go back to the fear of missing out thing, I think people have struggled with this since the dawn of time. You've got those people who have figured out how to get things done, how to be successful in whatever they're doing, and people that just look for distractions no matter what they were. It could be bad habits, it could be alcohol, it could be drugs, it could be toxic relationships. And that's always been a problem. I have a relative who, really sweet person, but they like to talk. And they literally will just take their entire day just talking to sometimes strangers, sometimes on the phone, sometimes a cold caller, and their obsession and their toxicity is not doing anything in their life but talking to strangers. So that those types of habits were always around. But to go back to your question, if you want to have a fulfilling life, a life in which your time is occupied in endeavors that you've chosen and that you feel are important, that are aligned with your objectives and your values, yeah, I think it would be great to have 5 objectives in your company, 5 objectives in your job, 5 objectives in your health, 5 objectives with your family. Why not? In fact, this is the weekend that my family sits down on our Sunday family meeting, and we plan our quarterly objectives. And in about 4 weeks, we're going to plan our annual objectives. And we just, it's not that heavy of a burden. It's just, what do you want to get done this quarter? And, we just track it at the family meeting. How are you doing on this? And it bakes into their DNA as kids the idea that they are independent, that they can choose what they want to get done in their life. And I just think that it's not taught. We did a podcast on this, in which, school is set up to be the be all end all God lurking above our kids and telling our kids what to do, and telling our kids subconsciously that, they can't choose the path of their own life. They can't choose to be independent creators. That, government and school is there to tell them how to be and how to act and what to think. And you got pop culture telling people how they're supposed to be. I remember a quote. It's funny that we talked about Steve Jobs, but Steve said also before he died, he said, I envision a world, because I'm seeing it now, that no matter what city I go to, whether it's Seoul, Korea, or Tokyo, or Rome, or New York, or LA, or anywhere, kids dress the same, kids act the same, kids talk the same, and kids listen to the same things on their iPhone. I found that like really a little bit weird. Like that, talk about, big business and big government and big media dictating how we are. So this approach to life on maximizing your, the results of your life and getting your priorities right is so powerful, because it's almost like you're getting you're opting out. You're getting out of the matrix. So I kind of like telling people that, look, it's okay to be an independent soul, creating your own path in life.
That certainly is very, very creepy. But from a corporate perspective, think about it. What did Bill Gates want? A computer on every desktop, right? With his operating system on every desktop. Apple, hey, they've accomplished what they wanted. How many people all around the world have iPhones? It's massive. It's crazy. And how interesting. So many people think the same way on so many topics all over the world. Countries have lost their culture, have lost their identity. It's like we're one big melting pot of corporate consumerism, and getting back to what's really important and how to accomplish those things. I love the story of what Warren Buffett taught. I'm very curious. I love to learn. There's a lot of things that I have interest in. And as I get older, I understand my time limitations. And I have this clock in the back of my mind ticking, thinking, I don't have all that much time. Even if I live another 50 years, am I going to really waste my time on things that aren't that important? You and I spend a lot of time on this podcast. This is very important to us. We get a lot out of it personally, and we're here to make an impact on people's lives, helping people live better, purposeful lives, right? Making an impact. So what they do and say matters, not only for themselves, but for future generations. Your family, Rick, your family life informed who you are today. You said something so deep. You lost your father at a young age, and you went out into the world looking for mentors. And thank God you chose some amazing mentors. It could have gone a different way. And we all know people who have chosen mentors or chosen other families that really didn't have a whole lot going on, and in fact had a lot of bad things going on.
It's funny because finding mentors, there was a period of my life where I sought out mentors, and those were my goals and priorities at the time. And I remember checking boxes. I remember a time where I had 10 mentors I wanted to have lunch with. And it took me a few years, but I ended up doing that. And so those became priorities. But I want to go back to something that you said, because I'm witnessing it in society at large. My relatives come from Italy, and as you know, I learned the language, and I speak to my children 100% in the Italian language because I wanted them to be bilingual, because I was told it gives an advantage to kids. But what's interesting about Italy and many other countries is they have lost their culture. In fact, the Italians that came to the United States, if you think back to the 20s and 30s and 40s, they built Italian neighborhoods in America, Italian American neighborhoods. And the Italians from Italy that came to visit those Italian American neighborhoods teased them. This is very common if you ask any Italian American that still has relatives in Italy. The relatives in Italy would tease us and say, man, I can't believe what old timers you are. I mean, you guys have like archaic culture. Yeah, this is how Italy was back then. Because what happened is many cultures, even yours being Cuban, the people that came to America wanted to retain the better aspects of the culture, and they left behind the negative aspects. But when you go to Italy now, Italy shed all of that. Italy has become far less religious, far less entrepreneurial, far more government controlled, far more socialist. And they left behind all of those things that made them great. So it's interesting. And, there's priorities for all kinds of things, for countries. And if you recall on the TED Talk that I did, I did the talk in Italy. And I said, you guys have to take a stand for yourselves. What does Italy stand for? Is anybody going to come forth and put a stake in the ground and make Italy great again? And so, Teresa and I are challenging you on these podcasts, and this one in particular. What do you want to get done in your life? What does your company need to get done? What does your country need to get done? Set priorities, focus on the most important 5 or less, and stop all the other nonsense and crap. Thanks for listening to another podcast of Money for Life.
You have just experienced the Money for Life podcast, brought to you by the 100-Year Savings Solution. Implement these strategies today and create a life by design. For more information, visit 100yearsavings.com. Have a blessed day.